Hi, welcome back to another episode of Unique Moments where I talk about things from my unique perspective. So, this episode, I'm going to be talking about self love, kind of doing a 180 from the self sabotage, but not completely. But I do think if you have self love, then you tend to not self sabotage. However, that's not always the case. But before we get into it, I am going to pull a card for the episode. This is from the Golden Mantras Affirmation deck. So we got, I attract success and new opportunities effortlessly. Come on. And I'm going to read the book just because why not? So it says, ask yourself, am I doing the best I can with what I have and showing up to the best of my ability every day? And that's lovely. I think that ties into the episode topic lovely, but I'm not even done. Am I doing the best I can with what I have and showing up to the best of my ability every day? Before you answer, remember to be kind to yourself. Consider your circumstances, the number of ways you're required to show up daily, and how that impacts your stamina and attention. On a physical level, identify how you can create space for new habits and rituals to support you on your path to success. On a soul level, welcome this mantra into your life. Say it with vigor, repeating it until you truly feel it in your body. Watch as success comes as new opportunities flow to you. Beautiful. That's just absolutely beautiful. So, self love, self love, self love. So I have a Google definition of self love, and what Google says self love is a state of appreciation for oneself that grows from actions that support our physical, psychological, and spiritual growth. Now, what AI says, same thing basically, but a little more embellished. Self love means having a positive regard for yourself, appreciating your own worth, and taking actions to support your physical, psychological, and spiritual well being. Essentially, treating yourself with kindness and respect, prioritizing your happiness and needs without sacrificing them to please others. And that's just such a solid definition. I think I don't know where most people are in the state of the world today, but I think it's no secret that self-love is very important, and we attract the reflection of who we are. So if we're loving ourselves, hopefully 9 times out of 10 we're attracting other people who love themselves and people who love us as well. And I love the self-worth piece. Like, I think that's such a big part of self-love. Because it's like when you take love in general, one of the highest vibrations, one of the highest feelings that you could ever have, it's like just a positive regard. Like, think about something that you love, a food, your dog, your significant other, your spouse, a favorite clothing brand, a favorite item, a favorite song. If you love something, you have such high regard for it. Like, it's worth so much to you. It's so valuable. And then like apply that to self, like yourself. And it's like, you'd be unstoppable. And self-love is so important as a foundation, especially when you're getting older. I think when you're young, like obviously, in school and even like your early 20s, mid 20s, not saying that you don't need as much self-love, but I think you get so much validation from the world, from your friends, from your parents, that it's like, if you don't love yourself, you can kind of still feel like you love yourself because everyone is reflecting around you that they love you, if you had good parents. If you didn't, RIP. But that's neither here nor there. But like people are reflecting that to you. Like, like you have friends, you have family that's like telling you they love you or showing you they love you. You know, everybody doesn't say it with words. Some people say it with actions. But regardless, you don't have to question, like, am I loved as a person in this world? But I think when you get older, and yeah, you still have friends, you know, you still have family that's showing you love and giving you love. But self-love is like a different type of energy, because it's like only you know yourself. Only I know my shadow side. Only I know my darkness. Only I know my light. Only I know what I'm capable of. Only I know what I have inside of me. Only I know me on a good day, on a bad day, in an angry mood, in a happy mood, in a sad mood, in a temperamental mood. Only I know the true extent of who that is. And I think when you're lucky, you do get the chance to share that with people, especially if you're in close friendship groups, or like if you are in a relationship, a romantic relationship, like you have that opportunity to experience love in a multitude of ways that people who don't have people close to them don't. And I think the self-love piece has to be worked out before you can really get into a relationship. But I mean, hey, debatable. Because you can grow into that. I think you can definitely grow into self-love, but it's a journey. And I can only speak for myself. I think I've always loved myself. Like, that's never been a question. I'm a Leo moon, so like it just comes with the territory. Like, why would I not love myself? But you know, life happens, things happen, and especially when you're like older. Like I said, if you're in your late 20s, 30s, 40s, and you just keep going up, like you experience more. You have lived more life. And so you know more. You've learned more lessons. You've had to discern more things. You've had to let people go. And I think for me, in the past couple of years specifically, letting people go really opened me up to a space of like needing to cultivate that self-love. Like, it wasn't even a question. Like, God was like, you're gonna sit down and you're gonna figure out what self-love is all about, because you don't have anybody around you doing it for you. Like, I think when you're so fortunate to have friends and family and just people surrounding you, or like a good job or a passion or a hobby or something that you do, something that you love, it's easy to be in that state of love, be in that state of passion. But when your friends are stripped from you, or you're uprooted, or you move, or you are just in a new vibration, you're just in a new area of your life, where's your center? You know, maybe you don't have a home, maybe you don't have a job, maybe you don't have something that grounds you. Where is your center? And that center always has to be self. And I think when you cultivate a beautiful relationship with self, as I have learned, like it's almost like you're untouchable and you're unstoppable, because one, you're the only one with you when you're born. You're the only one with you when you die. What's the saying? Born alone, die alone, something like that. I don't know. But it's true. And the more you like know your dark side, the more you know your shadow side, I think we think it's like harder to love ourselves, but it's just the most important relationship you can ever have. And honestly, low key, like it sets the tone for every single other relationship you have. Like, what do they say? You teach people how to treat you. Like, if you don't have self-love just as like a basic component, just like a basic component of like high self-worth, high regard, high self-confidence, high self-esteem. If you don't have that as your base level, it's like everything is like in trouble. Everything is in trouble, because if you don't love yourself, you start to accept things, you start to accept people and situations and places and spaces that aren't aligned with you, but you don't know any better, because it's like you don't love yourself. Like, think about a child. If you had a child or a niece, or you're watching someone, like, you know, you love them, you want the best for them, you will stop at no expense. You don't want them to just go through life all lost and confused and unloved and uncared for and uncatered for. And so it's like, why would you want that for yourself? And I think I think the idea of self-love, I'm not going to say it's overplayed because it's like everybody knows like love yourself, love yourself. It's a very like overly stated thing. However, I think even as much as it's overstated, I don't think it's understood. And I think you have to grow into that knowing, because I think on the surface it could look like, treating yourself, or I love myself, so I give myself what I want. I never say no to myself. I'm allowing me to live my best life in the best way possible. And, it looks like all the good things, all the warm and fuzzy things, but it's really not any of that. It's really not about how you treat yourself to nice meals or maintenance or clothes or whatever it is that you like, whatever it is your vice. It's like we think because we're giving ourselves what we want, then that means I love myself, because I'm not going to deny myself something what I want. And also it's kind of like, you look after yourself, you care for yourself. And I think grooming is a part of it. Like, of course, journaling, meditating, getting into your body, working out, doing spa days, getting a massage, like all of that all of that can fall under the umbrella of self-love. But I think at the core of it, it's deeper than that, because you can do all of those things on the surface, or someone can do them for you, however you're getting it done. And it's like, that doesn't mean that you hold yourself to a high regard. That doesn't mean that you have high self-esteem. There's a lot of people who look the part, dress the part, walk the part, talk the part, and deep down inside, they're very insecure. They have very low self-worth. They hold themselves not in a high regard. And so it's like, what's that thing? Like, that's the inside thing. That's the inner work that you have to do. And I think self-love stems from really getting to know yourself, really taking the time. And that doesn't have to look like shutting the world out and being by yourself and contemplating and yada, yada, yada. It doesn't have to look like that. Obviously, like, be around people. We need people. Have your friends, have your family. But I think you really have to get into you. And I think more so on a soul level and on a psychological level. A practice that has helped me immensely is just journaling. Like, I feel like that was my start to cultivating self-love about myself, because you can lie to people all day long, and hopefully you don't, but you can lie to people all day long, but you can't lie to yourself. And even if you try, it's like a trippy thing, because like you know the truth, like subconsciously, like, even if I tell myself like, okay, I want to make a life change, I'm gonna start running every day at 4 a.m. You're not a runner. Like, that. You can lie to yourself and say that you are a runner, but you're not. And you know that. And so it's like, is that you loving yourself? Is that you honoring yourself? Is that you holding yourself in a high regard? And I think it's just such a key piece, especially, I would say especially today, but just in life in general. Like, I feel like that's one thing that should be like really taught. Like, love yourself for yourself, not by yourself, but sometimes it's by yourself. Like, sometimes you do need to be secluded. Sometimes you do need that intense alone time. And sometimes you do need to really just contemplate and say, okay, who am I? Because I think the first part of it is like self-discovery, right? How can you love someone you don't know? And so if you really don't know yourself, you really can't love yourself. And so I think the first part of that is like, know thyself. Like, know who you are, know what you like, know what you don't like, know what makes you tick, know what makes you smile, know what makes you happy, know what makes you feel good. I think the goal of that is like knowing yourself so well, inside and out, literally deep from the inside and out. And it's like an ongoing thing as you evolve, because you can like really, really know yourself up until a certain point. But it's like, if you stop getting to know yourself, we're always changing, we're always evolving, everything is always changing. That's the only constant. So it's like, it's a full-time job, 24/7, 24 freaking 7, getting to know yourself, reintroducing yourself to things, reintroducing yourself to ideas, expanding your mind and learning, okay, do I like this? No. Ooh, I used to like this, but now I like this. I used to hate this, but now I kind of like it. Like, I don't really think I like country music, and then you listen to country music and you're like, actually, this is fire. Like it's about really getting down into, okay, what is it that I like as an individual, as self? Who am I? And I think when you answer that question, then you can start the self-love process, journey, whatever you want to call it, lifelong relationship with self. And when you really get into it, it's fun. When you really, really get into it, it is fun. I have so many memories of having fun with myself. And I feel like that sounds like crazy, but it's like, one, I enjoy my own company anyway, but it's like, how many people can say that? And I think it's like this thing to know that we need to enjoy our own company, but how many people do? Like, do you look forward to taking yourself places, not even out on dates, just places? Like, I look forward to being in the car by myself, with myself. And I love being in the car with other people and sharing moments and sharing memories and doing all of the things. But there's something about like when I get to spend time with me, like I love that. I'm energized by that. And it was not always that way. And that's why I can say it's a journey. It really is. And I think when you're able to love yourself unconditionally for the good, the bad, the ugly, everything that you have to offer, one, you can love other people because you know that you're only human and they're only human, and we have so many more things in common than we do not. And so it's like, okay, if I go on this self-love journey, this self-discovery journey, and I realize that I'm no better than you and you're no better than me, and I was able to love myself fully, unconditionally, then it makes it that much easier to love other people. And I think to also see the humanity in other people, because I think sometimes we just forget. We forget that we're all human, and we forget that we're all just doing our best. And I think it's easy when you don't love yourself, because if you're going to give anybody a break, hopefully it's yourself. Like if I'm cutting anybody some slack, it's myself. And so if I don't even cut my own self slack because I don't love myself, I'm not cutting anybody any slack. And so that just trickles down and into your reality, and in the sense of like, you're never satisfied. And it's not the people and it's not the situations, it's yourself. You can never be satisfied with an outside circumstance. Again, as above, so below. You can never be satisfied with an outside circumstance if you're not satisfied with the inside circumstance, because it all works together and it's all connected. And so I think one of the things that is really important is the just holding yourself in high regard piece. Because I think when you do that, naturally you choose better for yourself. You want better for yourself. Like for example, with a diet, if you hold yourself in such a high regard and you love yourself so much, just like a child, you're not going to eat like terrible. You're not going to just eat junk food all day and drink soda and never eat any vegetables and never have any fruits or nutritious value, because it's like, that's not nourishing your body. Your body is a part of self, mind, body, spirit. You have to love all of the things. They all work together. So it's like, that's a part of you loving your body. And then it trickles down, because when you get that self-love piece, when you realize how valuable you really are and how worthy you really are and how special you really are, one, you don't let anybody treat you any kind of way. And you don't just go anywhere with anybody, because you realize that you're rare. You realize that you're special. You realize that you're a gem. And that's something that's so special and that you take with you. And it's a good way to kind of assess and suss out low-key people who like don't hold themselves in high regard. And that's not to say like, oh, if you don't have self-love, you should like lock yourself in a room and, not re-enter society until you have it. But it's like low-key, because that's bleeding on everybody. We can tell you don't love yourself because you don't take care of yourself. Like, we can see it. And that's your business and that's what you want to do. But everybody thrives when everybody's thriving. And why would you not want to better yourself? Why would you not want to better the things that you know, expand your knowledge, expand your palette? Why would you not want to just be the best version of yourself? And I think that goes down to self-love, because we all have goals. We all have things we want to do, places we want to reach in life. But I think the thing that's standing in between that is like, low-key, how much you love yourself. Because if you love yourself, you would do anything. You would do absolutely anything for yourself. And like, can you say that? Going back to the mantra card, like, are you doing the best with what you have? Like, are you truly doing the best with what you have? Or are you waiting until it gets better? Are you assessing the situation and only giving half your best because you feel like that's deserved? Like, to be real, like, self-love truly looks like exercising self-respect, looks like exercising the the discipline that you have to go through to become the best version of yourself, or to become the healed version of yourself, or the healthy version of yourself, or the professional version of yourself. Like, there's a process that has to happen, because if you love something, if you really, really love something, you would do anything. I believe you would do anything for that thing. Whether it's a person, whether it's a job, whether it's a passion, whether it's a hobby, whatever it is, if you truly love it, you'll risk it all. And I think the point to get to in your self-love journey is, will you risk it all for yourself? How much do you love yourself? How much do you feel you're worth it? And I think it's easy to tell, if you're far from that, then okay, you can work on it. If you're right there, then okay, keep doing what you're doing. But you have to assess where you are, because, like I said, when we don't love ourselves, it just bleeds and trickles down into every other area of your life, basically. And when you do love yourself, you just look at things differently. Like, you kind of have to ask, like, you kind of have to think of yourself as like a child, like you're reparenting yourself. Like, is this good for me? Is this bad for me? Is this going to hinder me? Am I benefiting from this? What am I getting out of this, instead of just going with the flow, or being the person who wants to please everybody and be together with everybody and be friends with everybody. Like, sometimes the self-love looks like cutting people off that are not good for you, that are not good for your spirit. Sometimes it really looks like you need to leave that person alone. You need to leave that person alone. Yeah, it's love. Yeah, y'all have a lot in common, and yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. But are you loving yourself by choosing them? No, because every time you choose them over you, I don't care. Call it selfish, call it what you want. Anytime you choose somebody else over yourself, it's a lack of self-love. And I think at the core of it, obviously, it's if it's your child, obviously if it's your spouse, obviously if it's a close family member, your mom, like, that's not what I'm talking about. That's a different thing. Like, you're being selfless, you're being whatever. But if you're sacrificing yourself for anything, you got to get out of there. Like, you got to get out of there. You have to hold yourself in such a high regard that it's like you would not let anybody come between you and you. And that's including that toxic person. That's including that toxic job. That's including whatever's not making you happy. And it's not to say that once we love ourselves, we're going to be happy all the time. This is life. Be for real. Be for real. But you should be happy more oftentimes than not. And I think that's the goal. Like, paying attention to, like, how do you feel majority of the time about yourself? Not when you're hanging out with friends, not when you're at dinner, not when you're watching your favorite show, not when you're getting a little, lit, not when, whatever. Like, how are you when it's just you? And that's the gauge. That's the thermometer. That's what you use to say, okay, I love myself this much. And it fluctuates. It may not be the same every day. I could love myself at 100% on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, I'm like, okay, I love myself because I know how valuable I am, but it's at a 40% today. And that's also okay, because you're honoring yourself. That's also honoring yourself by asking, how am I feeling today? Not the toxic positivity, not, oh, I'm not going to speak that into existence because I don't want it to come true. If that's what it is, say that. Like, honesty is also a part of self-love, because if you can't be honest with yourself, who can you be honest with? And the answer is absolutely no one. You can't. Because if you don't even think that you deserve the truth, why would other people? why would other people? And I think that goes back into the practice of like just really cultivating a strong relationship with self. And I don't have any techniques. Google is still free. How, I don't know. But Google is still free. There's so many things you can do, so many techniques, so many things. All the people thought of all of the things, but I just really wanted to talk about the importance of it, not necessarily how you get to self-love, just really laying out a blanket statement of like it's necessary. Like it's absolutely necessary. Like it should be a non-negotiable. Like loving yourself, self-love should be absolutely a non-negotiable. And that's with anything. Like don't let anybody ever jeopardize that for you. Don't let anybody ever take that from you, because at the end of the day, you have to live with you. Even if you live with someone else, you have to live with you. You go to bed in your body at night, not anybody else. Maybe they sleep next to you, but they're not sleeping with you. Or maybe they're sleeping. Maybe they're sleeping with you, but you get it. You get it. And yeah, it's just so important. And to self-reflect, and because you can do all the things on the outside, but again, it's about the inside. Like, okay, you love yourself. Now you have a workout routine. You got a meal plan regimen. You're taking your vitamins. You're on your skincare. Again, with the external, that's not self-love, but it does point to it. It is a pointer, because if you love yourself, you want to take care of yourself. You do want to groom. You do want to, make sure your clothes look nice, make sure you're put together, make sure you're like, you just look nice. Like I deserve to look nice because I love myself and I care for myself. Very much a part of self-love, very much a part of self-care. However, the other things is they're internal, and that's what really matters. Okay, you love yourself and it's very, very apparent on the outside, but what's happening on the inside? How do you talk to yourself? And not just how do you talk to yourself on a daily basis, because that matters, but how do you talk to yourself when something goes wrong? How do you talk to yourself when you're anxious? How do you talk to yourself when you're depressed? All of these things factor into how much you love yourself. Like, can you, and again, I really think about it as like a child. Like, you're your own child. Like, you just have to love you to the best of your ability, and really just do that, because it's so beneficial. And when you don't do that, it's not beneficial to you or to anybody involved. And so I think it's really about, okay, what's my self-talk like? How do I talk to myself in my head when nobody's looking, when nobody's listening, and no one's around me? How do I talk to myself? And that, if you can pay attention to it, if you can really catch it in the moment of like, oh, I said something that was kind of mean to myself, or like, wow, I was kind of rude, or, if you can really catch it, which is like very subtle, but that's a good indicator. And you should talk to yourself nicely, because you love yourself. And if you don't love yourself, you're probably not talking to yourself nicely. And that's also okay. But it's just like, you have to get to the bottom line. You have to get to the bottom line, because if you don't love yourself, no one will, and no one can. That's the bigger thing. No one can love you if you don't love yourself. And I think the beautiful part of the self-love journey is like the journey, because it's so humbling and so just, it's so humbling, and to come from a place of you lacked a lot of self-love because you weren't taking care of yourself, or because of the way you were talking to yourself, you wanted to harm yourself, whatever it is, whatever was causing you to lack self-love. And then when you get on your journey and you're like healing and you're purging, you're letting things go that don't serve you, and yada, 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 it's a transformation. Like, you really go like 180. Again, it's a transformation. When you go from self-sabotage to self-love, it's like instant transformation. And who doesn't want that? That sounds lovely. That sounds like a really great place to be, but you have to work for it. And it's not easy. And it's about being disciplined. And again, how you talk to yourself. And I think it's a 24/7 job, everyday job. You can't just forget about yourself one day and decide not to love yourself today. Nikki Giovanni, she just did a interview. R.I.P. I cannot believe she passed away. R.I.P. She just did an interview, and she was talking about something that's off topic, but one of the things she said in the interview was the first thing you get up in the morning and tell yourself, I love you, because that might be the only time you hear it today. And that was so real. Like when I heard that, it's just like, wow, how many people do that? Like how many people do that? I just started doing that, and I don't know that I noticed a big difference, but it's just like, wow, because that might be the first time that you hear it today. That's what she said. That might be the only time that you hear it today. And why not? Why not start with yourself? If you really do love yourself, if you don't love yourself, don't say it, because it's not going to come out right because you don't mean it. And I think the deeper you go into the self-love journey and into just getting to know self and getting to love self, it's like you also just have a deeper appreciation of life in general and a deeper appreciation of the people in life in general. Because especially if you came from a place, if you came from a place where self-love was nowhere to be found, searching high and low, to and fro, and you find it and you cultivate it and you grow self-love and you grow into loving yourself, that is the most miraculous, wonderful thing anybody could ever do. And it's work, and it's hard work, and it's hard work that pays off, and it's gratification that pays off, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful feeling. And it's something that everybody has to go through, needs to go through, must go through. Because then you'll never really know. Again, how can someone love you if you really don't love yourself? And then why would you not love yourself? It's almost like a rite of passage, low key. It's almost like a rite of passage. Like when you learn to love yourself, the barrier to entry has fallen. You have access to so many other things that you didn't because you weren't on the frequency of love. You weren't on the vibration of love. And that's another thing. It radiates. Even if I have so much self-love, the love is going to radiate. And that makes me want to love everybody else, because I knew how hard it was to love me. I know my shortcomings, and it was not easy. And I think when you do the hard thing, and it could be simple, like loving yourself doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be hard work. I know I said that, but I think some people, it comes very naturally. It comes very, very naturally. And that's beautiful. And it should come naturally to everybody, because it's like, why not? Literally, why not? Why not? You're not losing anything. You're only gaining anything. You're only gaining love, self-respect, high self-esteem, high regard for oneself, and a boost in confidence, probably. And I don't think it has to be like a thing you have to do or be or have. Like, I think self-love is really unconditional, and it comes from just like being okay with who you are. And I think the other question to ask is like, if you didn't have the things that you have, if you didn't work the job that you worked, if you didn't have the career that you have, if you didn't exist in the space that you exist in, the lifestyle that you lived in, would you still love yourself? I think that's the true key. It's like when everything is stripped away and everything is gone and there's literally nothing left, do you still love yourself for who you are at your core, no matter what? And I think when you can answer that, then you're in business. Until next time.